Hey, everybody, welcome back to Zennie62 for Tuesday, September 15th. My God, the days run. I have technically, in a cyber way, taken a trip to the UK, to London. My friend David Squires is in the UK, he's in London. He is actually one of the original Zennie62Media bloggers going back to 2010. And so I call him legacy vlogger on our new Zennie62Media.com website. Stop myself from talking way too much, but Dave, welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing good. You?
Hey, great to have you, man. This is outstanding. How's the weather in the UK?
Actually, really hot. It's some very strange heat wave right now. It's like 29, and it was going to be about the same tomorrow. So for September, for like mid-September, it's very unusual. Yeah, it's really hot here.
Are they attributing that to global warming, or?
I have no idea. It's probably down to COVID. I mean, everything else is, right? So
I say that because here we've got the unusual heat in California. Here we've got unusual weather, and according to the limits to growth models, World 3 and the beyond the limits to models and system dynamics, we are 20 years behind where we should have been at our zero population growth rate. We haven't reached that yet. Population increases, planet gets warmer. We're already at global warming as far as I'm concerned. We've been there for 20 years. So there you go. In the middle of all this, we have the pandemic, and we have the revival of NFL 2020, and we have your piece on the Atlanta Falcons at Oakland News Now, which I thought was outstanding, and we will tag for people to view on high after we're done here. Why don't you assess for us the Falcons game against the Seattle Seahawks that went?
Yeah, well, it wasn't good, was it? From a Falcons point of view. As I said in my preview of the season, when it got to the Falcons, the big question was, which team are you going to get? You're going to get the one that started 1-7 and looked awful, especially on defense, or the one that finished 6-2, had wins on the road, New Orleans and San Francisco, and defensively looked so much better in the second half of the season. You thought, oh, we could build on that, and then you come to the first game, and then it's gone back. It's people saying, it's only one game, and yes, it is only one game, but we have been here before, so in that respect, it isn't only one game. We're just going to have to wait and see how much of a turnaround there's going to be going into week 2.
Is it a good idea to say that it's only one game, considering that Dan Quinn was basically this close to getting fired last year?
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are like, it's on Monday when I posted, it was overreaction Monday. As every team that loses, 16 teams will be their fans will be overreacting on Monday after the game. So, but yeah, like I said, it's one game of a new season, so it's not like you're not out of the playoffs yet. You're 0-1, but we've been here before with Dan Quinn, and we were here this time last year, and before you know it, it's just going to spiral out of control. And he pulled it round to save his job, but it was too late in terms of playoffs or anything like that. And Arthur Blank's already said that it's playoffs or you're out, basically. I mean, it was, words to that effect, but him, Dimitrov, Dirk Cutter, they're all going to be gone if Falcons don't make the playoffs. And consider there's an extra playoff spot as well. A 9-7 record could get you in. So if they don't get it in, then yeah, I think he's gone.
What is the fundamental problem with the Falcons from your estimation? I have my ideas, but what say you? What is, I know that here, this is folks on Oakland News Now, Atlanta Falcons fall to Seattle Seahawks in NFL 2020 season opener, hashtag NFL kickoff opener. It's by David Squires, easy to find. And as you can see, there's Russell Wilson running. And then in it, you said there are 3 questions. You said, with the Falcons opting to play 3 safeties, why did defensive captain Ricardo Allen only play 25 snaps? and DeMonte Kazi play only all 62 snaps. Then you ask, why does the defensive scheme almost completely eradicate one of the league's best linebackers in Deion Jones? I thought that was an excellent question. And then number 3, why did Dirk Carter not adjust to Seahawks safety Jamal Adams playing so many snaps on the line of scrimmage? What are blocking tight ends used for if not to block? All excellent questions. My question comes back to really Deion Jones. Deion Jones was a star, as you remember, in the Super Bowl. And they had developed a special defensive scheme for him. What's going on with the Falcons that they can't seem to? I mean, here's what I think is going on, okay? I want your opinion on it. I think that Dan and his staff don't quite understand how to put together a system so that they quickly respond to problems, whereas the New England Patriots can quite literally draw plays up in the dirt, right? And have a scheme that solves a problem. That talent, that approach seems to escape Coach Quinn. It seems to me more like, okay, I did this and I'm going to do it. I'm going to keep doing it. We just have to make a couple of changes, but I'm going to rely on what I learned. I'm not going to try something a little different. I'm not going to be an engineer. What do you think?
Because he was so successful in Seattle. I mean, that Legion of Boom will go down as one of the best defenses ever. So and then he's trying to recreate that now in Atlanta. But you know, those type of defenses just don't come around that often, and you can't just recreate them with completely different players. So he's trying to recreate the same scheme, getting players with the same skill sets, like Deion Jones, sideline to sideline linebacker. But for whatever reason, I mean, Deion Jones in the first couple of years, I mean, he looks like a top 5, if not a top 3 linebacker on his day, but he's disappeared. I don't know what it is, but it just seems to be the scheme. Now we're going 2 linebackers and all these defensive backs. I understand that the way the passing league is now, you're going to use more defensive backs and you're going to be in your base package a lot less than in days gone by. The old 3-4-4-3, something, a thing of the past. You're only going to be in that maybe 20-25% of the time, depending on how the game's going. But when you got he's just a pure playmaker, and a Lurkin next to him, he's very similar. He's not as good as Jones. He's younger, but he's a very similar type player, and it just seems like they've just taken those 2 out, and they were pushing Keanu Neal up almost as a third linebacker, which seems strange. Kazi played all the snaps, and to take Ricardo Allen out was just a strange decision. And I mean, Morris is running the defense now, which does show, because Quinn never used to blitz. He didn't believe in blitzing. He just believed in basically getting there with your front 4. But now I think we blitz like 31% of the time, something like that, against Seattle, which could be dangerous because Wilson is very good at escaping out of the pocket. But the pressure's more. That was the one plus side from the defense on Sunday. And it was the only plus, was the fact that we did get some quarterback hits and we did get 3 sacks. Last year, I think through the first 8 games, they got something like 6 sacks or some pathetic number. And it was like 18 or 19 in the back end of the season. So there is that, but I just don't understand what it is.
Sorry, go ahead.
There are just too many gaps behind the line and the secondary.
Mm-hmm. I think, sorry about that little interruption there, but I think absolutely. What bothers me as I think about what you're saying about the defense, I was actually going to see if the NFL Game Pass had the coaches film ready yet. It didn't yesterday. And for those of you who aren't familiar, NFL Game Pass has the all 22, so that you can look at the game from a coach's angle is essentially the idea. Anyway, what consistently strikes me as concerning about the Falcons is that they have their defensive linemen spread out tackle to tackle, and they don't seemingly want to establish a rule where they are going to make you overblock a certain section of the line. For example, they don't, and I was talking actually Coach Quinn about this when I ran into him at the combine, because I said I would love to see the Falcons use a kind of a Pittsburgh 1970s approach with their tackles with Grady Jarrett and have the tackles nose up on the center on either side, which would cause the offensive line to constrict and push the interior line back, but then also shorten the rush lanes for the ends to the quarterback. He said, "Yeah, it was a great idea, but saying that is one thing. He's one of those NFL coaches. You can see how they got their job by being very agreeable to what the owner says they want, and then the owner thinks they're going to get it, and then they really don't get that. They get something else." And I noticed Bill O'Brien is really great at this. There are a number of coaches who are really great at basically telling you what you want to hear. It's a great political trick, but it also produces some problems when you think you have a good idea that you're sharing, and maybe the person really isn't hearing your idea because they go back and they do the same things that got them in trouble the previous year. Um, and that's what I see here in the Falcons this year. Now you would say, yeah, it's the first game, but uh, it's still frustrating because yes,
Because we've been here before and we've seen it
right,
before, and
right,
that's why it's so frustrating. It's not like we fix one problem and now we have a new one. It's just the same problem.
and,
Um,
and
the defensive backs they're
We're
just
kicking
left
off
out on an island. So
Atlanta, Georgia. The roof is open.
sorry, they've got
Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
that's the standard game. The all 22 film is not ready, folks. So I can't use that copyrighted version. I have to be very careful there. And could you repeat what you said because the sound came up accidentally? Sorry about that.
yeah, just the defensive backs were just kind of just left just on an island, it seemed, and they're young players. Terrell's a rookie. They missed Sheffield, I think. They missed his speed. I thought Denard played well, and on the other side, Oliver just got mauled. He doesn't look like he's ready for that job, and it makes releasing Trufant just to save 10 million, which you spent half of that money on a tackle that isn't even there anymore. It just looks like an even worse decision than it did at the time.
Yeah, it looks like, and I'm glad you said that too. Um, the bothersome aspect of this. Oh, this game isn't even ready at all. Uh, I thought they were going to have the game here, but maybe this is a child of the pandemic, or oh, maybe not. I spoke too soon. I wanted to actually see if I could actually get to a point where I was showing part of the film and able to stop or freeze frame it so I could show you this clip in of the Falcons defense in position. That's the Falcons offense, of course. But my thought is that offense sells tickets, of course. Defense wins championships. And it doesn't appear that the Falcons have that championship defense that we want to see. And I think you're absolutely right. The
offense wasn't. The offense put up some numbers, but a lot of it was, some of it was garbage time, and some of it was where you have the big deficit. You just have to pass. And they had three receivers over 100 yards. They racked up over 500 yards. Because defenses tend to go into prevent when they have the big lead, and that's when you get the yardage. When it mattered, they couldn't move the ball in key situations, and the play calling was just stale. It was unimaginative. Gurley had 2 receptions for 1 yard. I mean, they're not doing what the Rams did with Gurley, which is throwing him the ball into space, a bit like the Falcons did with Freeman under Shanahan. Now that's how you want to try and use him. think Zennie's frozen here. Zennie's frozen. He's checked out. He'll be back in a second. So, I mean, with the offense, I think he's back. You're back.
I'm back. Yeah, it was something on my end.
Yeah, he froze. He froze for a second.
Yeah, it happens. So pick up where you were saying as far as that.
Yeah, so the offense, like I said, the play calling just unimaginative. I mean, Dirk Carr said that they had 500 to 600 plays in the playbook now, and although you're not going to see whole bunch of new stuff in 1 week, but we didn't see anything new. It wasn't even like we saw something that didn't work, but you saw it and went, you know what? Sometimes they see something, they come back to it later. You just didn't see any of that, and it was just predictable. We had a 4th down. I think it was 4th and 2, 4th and 3, and they just lined up in an I formation, and you're just looking at it going, it's not going to work. And they just got stuffed to the line because the line's not really built for that kind of thing. Now, if you want to be imaginative, I mean, flip someone out, even if it's a tight end, you only need 3 or 4 yards. You're not throwing bombs all the time. But it was the short yardage stuff that they struggle with more than, when they were in like 3rd, 10, 3rd and 12, they seemed to convert those things. And when it was short yardage, they seemed to be like, do we run the ball here? Or, what is it we're trying to do? And they just seemed to be caught between a rock and a hard place, and they just failed to convert. I mean, They were 0 for 3 on 4th down. They're 50% on 3rd down, which you can win a lot of games being 50% on 3rd down, but it depends where those 3rd downs are in the game. In key situations in the 3rd quarter, when you need them, they didn't get them.
Here, I want to shift over to the offense, but this is the Seahawks offense, but to show the Falcons defense, they actually have a kind of a college defense. They have what is in vogue is to have the defensive ends now inside the offensive tackles, as you can see, and then a nose tackle, as opposed to what I was suggesting, but it gets to the intent of having more pressure up the middle, but it doesn't, it still spreads out because you have the defensive end. And Dan Quinn loves to do this. He loves to have the defensive end out on the edge, and that's the person between the wide receivers and the tackle there.
Yeah, I think that's tack.
Right. That used to be Vic Beasley. That was Vic Beasley's role, and they like to have him standing up. Why, I don't know. I think you use a lot of leverage there. But let's take a look at how this play unfolded in this game right here. And there, okay, there's play action, but you see how there's no middle pressure, in part because of the run blocking. It's fake run blocking. So the fake run blocking holds up the pressure, and then the outside in is already you see he's got in, but he's also held up. It was actually a great play on the Seahawks part. They move Wilson in a sprint fashion, which is their style, like that. And look at the pocket he has. Look at the pocket he has. Because the Falcons presented a base college style front without any pressure up front in terms of pressing. This was the case all game long. And so it's no wonder that in this instance, you had the completion.
But the point is there, my point is, what in that situation where they're basically in an I formation, and okay, it doesn't have to be a run, it was a fake run, but it was a short yardage passing situation, unless there's a blown coverage over the top. Why are there only 2 linebackers on the field?
Yeah, because they were
on 5 defensive backs. I mean, there are 2 guys on the right-hand side. They're just not in the play at all. There was no wide receiver on that side. So they're not making adjustments. That's another thing. It's like it goes back to on the offense, Jamal Adams playing the whole game virtually, it seemed, on the line, and we're not making an adjustment to say, well, someone needs to block this guy. And Dan Quinn said, oh, well, he only had one sack. We didn't feel we needed to adjust, but he might have only had one sack. But the guy was in the backfield like it seemed all day, and he was just wreaking havoc. Ryan has less time. Plays are disrupted because he's there. Like I said, you got these blocking tight ends. If the guy's giving you trouble, just stick a blocking tight end, even if he just chips him for a second or two, and then comes out of there.
For me, go 5 wide. And for me, go 5 wide and force him out of there. And that's why I think the Falcons do themselves a disservice by not having a quarterback draw, or if you want to go out and make it a step further in terms of our conversation and talk about the quarterback, a quarterback that can run fast enough for you to be confident enough to call a quarterback draw. Because if you went 5 wide, pulled Jamal out of there, and had, let's say, for example, Lamar Jackson, okay? You would have to have somebody in the box, even with 5 wide, to watch Jackson. But if you didn't, room. But even if you don't have a Lamar Jackson, you have someone like a Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is the master at running when the passing tree of the play breaks down, picking up yardage. That has been the Seahawks' bread and butter ever since they brought in Russell Wilson and Darrell Bevel was their offensive coordinator. And quite obviously, as you can see by just the one play we showed you, that continued that process of having a running play or fake run play that has room for Russell Wilson to run and makes him mobile. In that case, sprints him out to one side or the other. But the Falcons don't do that. And
I think the alternative is, and yes, Ryan is more of a drop back passer. He can move, and you don't really want him running around, but he can move around. But why are there no screen passes in this offense? That's another way to counter a rush. It's a quick screen. There's no rolling out quick passes to the sideline for a quick 10 yards just to get moving. There's just none of this stuff. It's all predictable. It looks like there's only 20 plays in the playbook.
And you have to ask the question too, because for example, the New Orleans Saints had screen passes. All right, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers ran screen passes yesterday.
The Saints run screens more than any other team in the NFL.
And the point that I'm making though is that one could say, well, hey, maybe it's the pandemic, and because of all these different problems, they didn't have the opportunity to properly, or maybe they felt like they couldn't coach a screen properly. But then I point to other teams that did coach screens properly, and you have to say, well, okay, is the pandemic revealing who the best teachers are and who the best teachers are not? Is it that?
Yeah, it's just going to come down to coaching at the end of the day.
Oh, it always does.
And then figured because of the pandemic and because there's no preseason and because there were limited practices. I mean, if you watched any of Hard Knocks, you just saw that there was hardly any practicing. There were a lot of walkthroughs. It took them ages to get into pads. So all this stuff was condensed down. So if you had new coaching staff and you were implementing new schemes, or you had a new quarterback, a rookie quarterback, it might take them more time because they've had less time or less practice or less games, and where we've actually kept our coaching staff, you figured, well, maybe this will work in our favor. Again, we're going to have to wait and see, but certainly after 1 week, it doesn't look that way.
Hey, here's a kind of a rendition of what we were talking about. This is the Falcons, but they are, as you can tell, their trips left basically what's called a 3-by-1 with one running back. And here you have 2 linebackers and safety up close, but the running back in the backfield, they could put that person in motion either way. I didn't see the Falcons using 5 wide receivers or.
There's another thing they don't do. They don't motion guys.
Right.
They just don't do it. I don't remember the last time I saw it.
Right. And you have to ask who was the
whether
outside.
Ryan feels like he can read a defense and he doesn't need to, but I don't know if that's the point the whole time.
And here the Seahawks in this instance, threaten the pressure up the middle, and guess what? They bring it. That's five rushing, okay? And the result is it's initially picked up, but look how quickly, because they have 5 instead of 4, they shed the blocks. And also the Falcons had long developing plays out of this, long developing patterns. And in this case, Ryan hit Julio Jones across the middle, and he did not pick up a first down.
But this is another thing they do. They throw the ball 5 yards behind the sticks. Like, he's 5 yards short when he catches that ball. But we do it so often. It's like, why are you throwing it there? You need to, there are times when you just need to get someone to run and out to the first down marker and just catch the ball.
Yeah, they were expecting
when you're backed up.
Carter was expecting yards after the catch, and Jason Johnson says Dirk Carter has to go. His play calling is too bland and predictable, just like you were saying as we were on the outset of our conversation. And thank you, Jason, for commenting. And if you watch this, folks, you want to comment, just write your comment, and we will feature it, if it's appropriate, of course, right here on the program, as you can see. What do you think about the idea that Carter has to go? And if so, who do we replace him with? I've interviewed Dirk. I like Dirk as a person.
Whether firing a coordinator after week one is really the way to go. I think it's too soon. But who do you replace him with? Again, I don't know if there's anyone on the staff that, unless you switch Morris to offense, but that's just going to confuse things, I think. So yeah, I don't know. I think that it's going to wait until the end of the season. And if Quinn goes and they get someone like Eric Bieniemy from Kansas City, then he's going to be the head coach and the offensive coordinator. So maybe it's time they go offensive head coach, because when you look at the defense, and it does have some good players, and really with the offense, with the players they have on offense, with Ryan, Ridley, Julio, Gurley now. Even look at Russell Gage, who had like 114 yards receiving. He looks like he's going to break out as well. And you have the tight end now who looks like he's probably going to be similar to Austin Hooper. And you have all these players, and this offense if you gave Sean Payton this offense, they'd be scoring 35 points every week. And there really isn't that much reason why they shouldn't, because they fixed the offensive line mostly. It played a lot better. That was a plus. And if the offense can do what it should do and score these points, you only need the defense to be somewhere middle of the road, maybe 15th, 13th in the league, in scoring at least. Obviously, it will need to step up in certain situations, but you don't need the defense to be like top 5. It's never going to be that.
I think rather than people, I think plays, and I think Dirk would serve the organization well in studying the Air Coryell offense, because they've got the horses to run that kind of offense. And in terms of pattern, you can mix the Air Coryell patterns with the Bill Walsh footwork and create a very powerful passing game. You see here, these are all plays from the John Coryell, who is the head coach of the San Diego Chargers, and the playbook of Mike Martz. Now, let's take the play. I'm trying to enlarge this. And if I zoom in, and then I keep zooming in here, that's the wrong way. But let me try zoom in again.
And there's so many versions of this offense as well.
Again.
And you look at Cliff Kingsbury as well, what he's doing in Arizona. And, I like Kingsbury a lot. I think he's going to be a really good head coach.
But take a look at the play on the right. And that play, which is on a very similar formation to what, in terms of it being a 3-by-1, to what the Falcons are trying to do shows that, let's say, if you take the flanker to the outside on the right, that flanker is being asked in this instance to run 12 to 15 yards and then in. We call that a skinny post. It was 3rd and 11. Julio Jones would have picked up the first down with this play. There's not a request for the number one receiver. And you can see they've got the receivers named number 1, 2, and 3. Number 1, the outside flanker, or number 2, the slot, 12 yards, runs a hook. The hot receiver is the tight end running 45 yards. I don't particularly like that pattern because the way that's designed, it produces a conflict. I would rather have my tight end run an angle in so that there's less of a chance that the linebacker covering the tight end will be quite literally led to the number 2 receiver to produce an interception. You know what I mean? You'd rather have the slot receiver take a step up and then turn in and then go down and then aim for a point 15 yards downfield with the expectation of catching the ball 8 yards downfield, and then widening this and then taking advantage of the tight end clearing out the spot for the slot receiver, but at the same time the slot receiver is actually giving spacing for the split end. So we see the split ends on the other side for the flanker on that side. You see what I'm getting at? But yeah, this is the play
the Falcons had plays like this in their playbook when Shanahan was there. Now this offense is a version of Shanahan's offense because Cotter is a run blocking, a run power run scheme guy. I know he's been in the league a long time, and he's running Shanahan's offense. So that's a mismatch to begin with. He's not running the offense that he made his name with. He's running someone else's offense. And it took Sarkisian a while to get used to it. But in his second year, he really kind of figured it out. And I think actually it would have been better off just keeping Sarkisian because he started to figure it out. And there was some imaginative stuff and there was stuff you didn't expect. And it wasn't just bland and predictable for a defense to just sit back and say, well, this is what they're going to do.
Yeah, I think, again, this goes back to plays. People like to talk about, I don't know why, other people. And I think you sort of alluded to this in a sense that Shanahan is using a playbook that he inherited, not necessarily his own, although he has made some adjustments. But that's a great point because no one was expected to learn, like Matt Ryan, for example, Falcons quarterback, their nomenclature, right? That wasn't expected to happen. What was expected was, hey, look, Dirk, you will learn our nomenclature, our language, and then design your plays within that. But again, you got a horse like Julio Jones, and you have speedsters like that, and you have a league where, as you saw by the play that we just looked at, you don't get a lot of time to throw.
No.
You don't get the luxury of, and this is why I hate people saying seeing the field. You don't have time. You quite literally have to know where the ball is going to go before the snap. And then you have to have an adjustment predetermined because you have to say, okay, what happens when that doesn't work? Where do I go next? And what Matt did was, if you took a look at the time he had, that was enough time to throw the kind of pattern that we're discussing here. But instead, he threw a cross-field pattern, and these speedy defensive backs, they zeroed in and ate him up. And it was wrong to ask him, to put him in a situation, Julio Jones, as great and athletic as he is, to say, we expect you to break those tackles.
But there are times for all we want all this imagination and we don't want it to be predictable and that's all fine and that's true. But at the same time, there are times when you have number 11, you just got to throw it up. Just throw it to him.
Yeah.
He's catching balls double covered. You're not going to do it every play and you can't, there are times when you just can't do it. But there are also times when you go, I'm throwing it to 11 no matter what. And there are other teams that have receivers who say, I'm throwing it to my guy and he's going to come down with it.
You see, somebody would say, well, they did throw it to number 11 no matter what, and we see what happened. And what I'm saying is, throw it to number 11, absolutely. But when you throw it to number 11, give him a chance to make a play. This play puts number 11, Julio Jones, in a position to make a play. But what Dirk put him into, all right, as Jason was saying right here, all right, bland and predictable to us, and definitely bland and predictable to the Falcons' the Seahawks defensive brain trust, which was waiting right there, right?
Yeah.
For him to catch the ball. They said, you know what, we're gonna man under, and we're gonna umbrella, and we're gonna nail them. And that's exactly what happened. They were ready for the crossing pattern, but they weren't ready for, and this pattern takes some execution. Then throwing it to number 1 on the skinny post, something that the Dallas Cowboys, when they had Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin at quarterback, made a steady diet of. When they needed a third down play and they needed a big play, didn't matter if it was Alvin Harper or Michael Irvin, you saw that skinny post coming. They had Ernie Zampese, who was a Coryell disciple, as the offensive coordinator, and he ran or had them run these plays to perfection. And I'm not saying you base an entire offense off that, but when you have talent like Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu as well, and now with the even great tight ends that can run, these are the plays, the patterns that you have to use. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, another thing that we had success with previously is crossing routes, which in that play you showed there, if Julio runs the same route, but someone like, it doesn't even matter who it is. I mean, Ridley's a pure, brilliant route runner, but it doesn't have to be Ridley. It could just be someone coming across the other side. That's at least going to take someone away. And maybe Jones only has one man to beat instead of one man slowing him down and the other one coming in to clean it up. Mm-hmm. Or if they both go to Julio, then you take the other guy who's coming across. I mean, it's just, as we say, it's just like we're a broken record here, just saying it's predictable because it's predictable. There's no second guy that's just, this is what they're going to do. It's going here.
And if you're wondering what the rest of those plays look like in the system, here they are, and the different variations of concepts that started with Don Coryell and were refined by people like Norv Turner and Mike Martz and others. And of course, here's the air raid offense system, as you can see noted on the right, that Cliff Kingsbury runs and that Dave Squires was referring to in his commentary. And so, but what you don't see, you do see crossing patterns, like here's the mesh, okay? But you also see the ability to quickly pick up a first down. Doesn't matter if it's like a 15-yard out, as you can see at the bottom here. This is, right, as I have it highlighted here, right? The quick seam by to get the ball to your playmakers in space so they can make plays. Making plays or making first downs, picking up big yardage, making touchdowns. All right.
Yeah.
So who's our next opponent?
Dallas, at Dallas. So someone's going to be 0-2. I didn't watch the Cowboys game, but against the Rams, but they lost 20-17. But then if our defense plays and lets Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper run around, run free, like we let those guys run free, then it's going to be the same thing. So they need to pick it up on both sides of the ball. It's not even like you can say, oh, the offense is going to bail us out, because with play calling like that, it doesn't look like they're going to.
This is a game
to take both sides of the ball.
This is a game the Falcons should win, I think, because I say that. I mean, I apologize for interrupting you, but finish your thought, because I'll tell you why I say that so excitedly.
I mean, they've won their last 5 week 2 games. Whether this is just another Dan Quinn trend, I don't know. But I can see the Falcons winning if they play like they played last week. Then no, I can't see it. But if they play like they played at the back end of last year, which is kind of what we're waiting for, then yes, they can win that game.
Yeah, and the reason why I think they can win is because they're not going up against the kind of system the Rams threw at the Cowboys and are going to throw at the rest of the league. And the Rams are back to what I call the mix of the simple, almost the wishbone style offense, where you have a handful of plays that you run again and again and again, but all the plays are interconnected, right? The Rams have a beautiful set of interconnected play action pass and run plays that are, I call them elegant sweeps. So you sweep here, sweep this way. And in fact, that overall concept, including the jet sweep, was designed by Ted Say, who is a UK guy that we haven't been able to quite connect with and get on the show. He's poor man. He's actually taking care of his mother too, and his wife. He is in a situation where I pray for him and I need to check in and see how he's doing. But I digress. The man who created the jet sweep is an English guy named Ted Say. I repeat, the man who created the jet sweep, the concept, is from your neck of the woods. What do you think about that? What does that say about everything?
It's pretty surprising, really. I mean, the jet sweep's probably been around for some time. I think it probably gets more use today than it did where it's a play probably based on speed, and the NFL now is all about speed, whereas when I first started watching it in the early 90s, it was more about power and power blocking and probably Dirk Koetter's era, to be fair. But now everything's built on speed. So yeah, it's interesting that I know you've mentioned it before, and we tried to connect with him for a piece, but not done so yet. So yeah,
Ted, we're coming for you. Hey, so Dave, thanks for your time. I know that you've got a busy schedule, and I want to thank you for all that you've done for Zennie62Media. And hey, by the way, got a prediction for Falcons versus the Cowboys at Texas. I was going to say Texas Stadium. I'm showing my age, folks. It's Cowboy Stadium. I've been to Texas Stadium several times.
Really?
Irving, it's sadly torn down, replaced by Cowboy Stadium, which I have not yet ventured in, but I'll change that. So yeah.
I don't know whether to be silly and say we're gonna win, or I'll say okay, Falcons 27-24.
I'll go with that. I think it's going to be a close game. The Falcons will not have to deal with I call it the stylized sweep, jet sweep offense of the Rams, where they're feeding the steady diet of these plays, and they get you going one way and they go another. Then once you figured out that maybe you think they're going to pass, they don't.
It's either that
I'm sorry?
It's either that or we lose like 35-10. So yeah, take a pick.
Yeah, I mean, if we do that, if that happens, it would be a shock, because the Cowboys' offensive style doesn't point to that kind of outcome, you know.
I mean, we played the run pretty well early on in that game, but when Seattle realized that they didn't necessarily need to run, they just kind of stopped doing it, and it was a lot of sweep passes and screens to the running back, which we couldn't stop. So if you can't stop it, the team's just going to keep doing it no matter what it is.
That's true. Hey, stick around in the background. All right.
Yep. Okay.
Hey, everybody, we'll see you later today. Stay tuned, and please, if you haven't done so before, subscribe to Zennie62 on YouTube and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. Thank you.